Yo, hey everybody. So this is a bike I worked on the other day. It's an older Yeti 575. I believe it's a 2007 model, but this is basically all the OEM components. It's a 3x9 speed triple setup there. Um, Basically we going to convert it over to a SRAM 1x NX 1x12 conversion. So this is, we've been doing actually quite a few of these this year, so decided I'd make a little video, kind of give some highlights on the process of updating an older bike. So that's the components we're using. You can get them with a complete crank. This one it's a common 4-bolt chainring bolt circle diameter, so we just chose to switch out the chain ring there. So anyway, yeah, you can buy these little kits as a complete package or just piece them together like we did on this particular application. So I'm starting out just stripping the old bits and things off the bike. So just kind of the gear ratios. The rear on this one, the 9-speed, it's an 11:34. Up front here, it's on the original triple, it's a 44 tooth on the big ring, 32 in the middle, and then 22 teeth on the small ring. So just you can kind of customize that however direction you want. If you want to keep it in a lower end range, or whichever, just depending on which chain ring you decide to put on. So that's starting to strip it down. That's the old rings and everything. And it looked like definitely most of the use was on the 32, and this bike was just getting passed down to a kind of a younger kid, so we went with the 32 there. But again, you could experiment with that. But anyway, with that 32 and that Eagle, this is the version that just fits right onto an existing the NX cassette. It's a 12-speed, but it fits right on a normal 10-speed free hub body, so it's super easy conversion. So yeah, we're just getting all the bits stripped down here. These grips are not the lock-on style, so I'm using just compressed air here to get them off. Got those RockShox logos under there, or not RockShox, but Race Face logos under there that haven't seen daylight in 12 years or so. Anyway, yeah, the brakes actually still worked really well. Those old Avid Juicy brakes, which is usually a lot of the Avid brakes with the DOT fluid, it over time will eat up the rubber bits and whatnot inside the lever. They'll start to malfunction over time, but these ones actually still felt really good. So we tuned the bike up, but I don't think we messed with the shifters at all, or the brake system at all. Just maybe adjusted the alignment a little bit. So yeah, we're getting the stripping all the old shifters and things off here. I just left the brake levers back. I just put them back on, just kind of held them in place while we get the rest of the bike cleaned up. So yeah, got those off, and from this point it's just a matter of getting the bike cleaned up and everything before we put the new parts and whatnot on here. Yeah, I got it in that's our little bike wash room. A couple things that as far as that I like to use. The water there, the hookup, I like to use just straight hot water generally, so I'll maybe start off as just real dusty and dirty, give it a quick wet down, and then as far as the solution there that's in that bucket, it's just a solution of Dawn and maybe a little bit of Simple Green in there, and then I have that can of the Simple Green foaming stuff. If it's real old grease, grungy, that kind of thing, I'll spray that on, let it set up for a bit. But otherwise, this one wasn't too dirty, and most of the drivetrain, or all of it, we're replacing. So it's mainly just getting the bike cleaned off, and then just rinsing it off with straight water here. You always want to avoid shooting it directly in the sides of the bearings and whatnot if at all possible. And yeah, just giving it a good rinse down, and then we're going to be ready to start putting our new bits and pieces and whatnot on here. So one thing that I didn't have included was the little SRAM has some little spacers that you can use. So I just kind of found some that worked to convert the double chainring bolts to that single chainring, or you can use just regular old single chainring bolts, which we didn't have that in the little kit, but I just used some spacers there, which are similar to the SRAM spacers. So they'll actually come, if you choose to use a SRAM chainring, they'll come with the little kit there, a little 1x sync chainring there. So anyway, just getting our crank bolted back on here, and we're going to put our rear derailleur on. It's not set, screws are not adjusted or anything, so we're just basically bolting it up on here. Sometimes, depending on the bike, you may want to have the wheel in the frame before you're removing or installing that derailleur, just in case that hanger's not super robust. Like I say, with just the normal cassette here. Yeah, so we're getting the wheel up in the bike now. I'm going to start kind of semi fine-tuning some stuff. And at this point we'll want to generally just get the derailleur after we get the wheel in, get it generally in the ballpark, well, as far as the chain here, first off, we're going to size that up. Chains are always going to come long, so you'll need to cut it down. And on the Eagle stuff, if it's basically what you want to do is loop it around the chain ring and then the biggest cog in the rear. If it's a full suspension bike, normally you'll want to just mate the ends of the chain up and then have cut it where you've got basically 2 links of overlap, including the connector link. If it's a hardtail, you'd want 4. That's just SRAM's basic directions, and that's if once the frame goes into its travel, it's going to shorten that distance between normally the rear cogs and the chainring there. So yeah, that's where we cut it. Here I'm just kind of mocking up, getting the set screws, so on the low end with that pulley just right under the lowest cog, and then you can adjust the low end or the high cogs and get it up on just where it's centered over the big cog there, just to get a baseline. You'll want to fine tune it afterwards. So this particular bike, you can't hook the shifter directly to the brake lever, so it comes with that little clamp. So we got that all hooked up. As far as the cable routing on these, it just kind of loops through the housing there, over that little pulley, down into that little guide, and then it's going to go. This is an area I see these hooked up wrong sometimes, but it's going to loop over and then down over that little nub and around the washer like that. So you want to use that little red guide to adjust the height of the pulley by adjusting the B knuckle screw there. So it's sitting a little high right there, so you want to get that pulley a little bit closer. I'll usually set it to where it's correct right at sag. So anyway, yeah, the bike came out really nice. Basically looks like a new bike. And anyway, yeah, with that 1x setup there with the clutch and the derailleur, it basically does away with that chain smacking around against the frame and all the shiftings in the rear. So just works so much better than the older systems. So anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for this particular project. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, found it informative, gave you some ideas if you're considering doing this own treatment to your own old bike.